This is A Silent War Within, the podcast dedicated to confronting the unseen mental health battles carried by our first responder and healthcare heroes. This show is about real stories, real struggles, and real ways to survive the storm and come out stronger on the other side. For too long, stigma has kept you silent, but this is your space to bravely break that silence, share vital insights, and build a community where your well-being truly comes first, because your service deserves unwavering support.
Welcome to A Silent War Within. It's another episode. It's another week. We've got some fantastic things going on. We've got our Facebook, we've got our YouTube, we've got our episodes out now. We're super excited about what's going on. We are everywhere you can find us. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, Google, all those good places. Make sure you check us out. We're gaining followers every day on our TikTok page, our Instagram page, and our Facebook page. You can just go and search A Silent War Within and you'll find those there. If you ever need resources or anything from us, you can always reach out to our email. It is asilentwarwithin@gmail.com. Kim, my co-host, how are you today?
I'm pretty good, Kevin. Happy to be here. Happy to be here with our guest, the Salty Paramedic.
We do have a very interesting guest today. I would say one of my favorite books that I've read in recent years. It is a guide to not losing yourself. It is a mental health resource guide, really. And it kind of tells your story. Your name is Cody Spalding. You go by the Salty Paramedic everywhere you can be, Facebook, TikTok, right, all those places. We're excited to have you today. So why don't you get into it and tell us a little bit about your story, your career, kind of where you come from. What's your origin story?
My origin story was I was a firehouse brat. My dad was a career firefighter, so I grew up there. It was a second home to me. It's what I always wanted to be in life. So from there, at the age of 15, my dad helped institute a junior firefighter program at his department. So I actually got to start at the age of 15, going on runs, attending trainings, really learning a lot about the job. I did that until I was 18, and then I volunteered for a little bit until I went to college. Got a bachelor's degree in fire protection administration. That's where I met my wife. We got married at the end of the junior year of college, and then after we both graduated, shortly after that, I got onto my full-time career department, had my first kid within that same year. And then a year after I got onto there, I got my paramedic license. So going into it, my dad, he was an EMT firefighter, wasn't a paramedic, and I had the same aspirations. I remember going on runs when I was younger and seeing those medics start lines and giving drugs, and I was like, that's not me. I would never want to do that. Well, my department were a little short-staffed on medics. They offered to send me to class for free. I'd only been an EMT for 2 months at this point, and I was like, you know, what the heck? EMS isn't that bad. So I went to class, ended up liking it, got my medic in 2017, so I've been a medic since then. Other than that, still married, 3 beautiful kiddos, and still on my career department and just loving the job.
That's awesome. So tell me about what was the motivation for this Don't Lose Yourself book? How did it start? Because I'm serious. This has probably become one of my favorite books. It's an easy read for anybody who's interested. It is 85 pages long. It's got some writing opportunities in it for those who are interested in that kind of thing. It's literally a great book, dude. I really like this book. I was super excited to finally be able to get it. And I'm excited for your new book. So tell us about all the book things and how the mental health guide actually came to be.
All right. So it just been an idea in my head for the past few years. I was like, hey, I'd like to write a book, but I don't know the process. Well, I started the Salty Paramedic page in January of 2024, just out of boredom, wanting to post funny memes and videos about the job. It kind of took off. And before I knew it, you know, I had hundreds of thousands of people following me, and it seemed like a lot of eyes were on me. So I'm like, if I have this big following, I need to try to use it for good. So I found out about the Amazon book publishing program. It's very easy. I looked up YouTube tutorials how to format a book. So I typed up the whole thing on Microsoft Word, submitted it, found some lady online. She designed my cover, and before I knew it, it was a very quick process. I had a book published on Amazon. I had no intention of it blowing up like it did. I did not think it would. I think at this point in time, I'm almost at 7,000 copies sold. And, you know, self-published, that's huge. And I'm very proud of that. But more so, I'm proud of the type of messages I receive every day from people.
Absolutely.
I
I'm
cannot
sure.
tell you how many people reach out and tell me how this book has affected them. And not just first responders. I had a lady message me yesterday talking about how it pertains a lot. She's a veterinarian. She said a lot of people in her field have read it and how it applies to them as well. And I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So it's just the messages in itself that I get is just huge. And just that pushed me to publish the second book, actually, which is out now. It's about relationships. So I'll touch on this just briefly. So me and my wife, we've been married 12 years. My father and my mother, they've been married over 25 years. Like I said, he was a firefighter. And growing up in this career, you see a lot of marital issues. We're the type of people that seem to struggle with that. So I felt like I also had something to say on this subject. And my wife actually helped me write this book. She's got certain sections in the chapters where she discusses the spouse's point of view, which I thought was unique. But yeah, I was like, you know what? I got an idea for a sequel. I'm going to publish that as well. So yeah, that just dropped this week as well.
I love it. I'll be buying it this afternoon, I'm sure. So, and this is kind of off guide, and that's fine. We can edit whatever out. It's not a big deal. Would you and your wife be interested in coming on the show later on and doing because that's one of the things rumbling around in our minds is like, because Kim's married to a first responder. She's technically a first responder herself. I don't know if you know kind of our story. We work at an all pediatric neonatal critical care service. I'm the manager. Kim's one of the RTs, but I've been a paramedic for 10 years and in EMS for 20. So it's a lot of hazard to the job mentally, and I think that this book really outlines some of it. And one of the things that I absolutely love that you did was you told about the previous generation, like you talked about your dad and how he didn't really deal with any of that stuff. He didn't really suffer from it that he told you, but you kind of had that mentality like we did coming out. We talked about this the other day in an episode that we kind of grew up in a time in EMS and first responder, that community just didn't have a mental health focus at all. I mean, there was just nothing for us. So unless you were actively seeking something, there was nothing like this or like Code Green or like all the other things that are out there in your book and other things that have been published and people focusing on mental health. There was none of that up until probably 5 to 10 years ago. This really came to ahead and people started having these things, and AT&T got involved. Of course, we know about FirstNet and all that stuff that they really do a lot of mental health things. But tell us about your dad. Tell us about how he kind of molded you and how to react to the things that he saw. Because one of the things you say is he didn't ever have that big open up.
Yeah. So my dad growing up, he grew up on a dairy farm. He witnessed at the age of 15 or 16, my grandmother fell in a silage auger and got her leg cut off. So that's kind of how he got into fire and EMS. When the crew showed up, he was just, astounded by how quick they worked and everything. But growing up, I saw him, some things get to him. As a kid, you didn't notice much, but sometimes I would notice things. But he seemed to really have a strong hold on it. And when I joined at the age of 15, that's when he really, took me under his wing and helped me try to understand, how to process certain things. And of course, the age of 15 to 18, I didn't really see anything real traumatic because I wasn't allowed to go on those type of scenes yet. But he prepared me and he gave me that knowledge going forward of when I joined that career department and I got thrown into those type of runs. I felt like I was better for it, more prepared than some people that don't have those type of people behind them.
Yeah. And one of the things you do in a lot of your videos and even your marketing videos, you have some really funny, dark humor. And I think that Kim is the perfect person to talk to you about this because Kim has, bless her, she is a dark humor queen. She is great at it.
I am a dark humor queen, Kevin. I seem to think that a lot of us in EMS tend to cope with hard situations through dark humor because what else do you do?
Yes.
Especially when there hasn't been a lot of resources available to us. I mean, if we break down and cry, we might not stop crying. So what else is there to do but laugh? Is that one of the coping skills that your dad, kind of taught you to laugh
Yes.
it off and make light of situations?
Absolutely. And his mother, the one that got her leg cut off, she was the one that, because I talk about her in my book as well, my grandmother. She was the one that started this humor in our family because she had been through so much in life, but she just, laughed it off, and she loved playing pranks on people. And I strongly believe that she was a big role model for him going into the fire service. And, because he taught me a bunch of pranks and he taught me how to laugh in this type of job. And so we owe her a lot.
So what's your best prank that you pulled?
I don't know if I can tell you all. HR might be watching. One of the funniest things when I first started that my dad got me with, and then I started, getting other people with, was we would stick a nozzle halfway into somebody's pants in the front there, and we'd put a quarter on their chin and say, "Hey, I'll give you $10 if you can drop the quarter into the nozzle." And of course, you're like, $10, like, yeah. And they do it, or they put the quarter on there. As soon as they do that, somebody come with a cup of water and pour down the nozzle, and their pants will be soaking wet. So that was a clean one, but I always appreciated it.
We were pranksters too. My EMS career has been mostly a private service, private 911. So we had a guy and his name's Chad. Shout out Chad. It's always a Chad, but he was super excited every time we would get anything that sounded bad. He was just very easily excitable. So my ex-wife at the time worked in dispatch. So I told her, I said, you've got to tone us and you've got to make it sound like it is the worst trauma you've ever heard, like bodies laying on the road. It's got to be something good. What he didn't know is we had taken the hinge pins out of the door and the door opened out, right? So he comes running through the door with his whole body weight and that door hits the ground and he was right on top of it. Oh. And we giggled, and he still, even in the midst of us laughing, he's trying to get up and go to the call that is not real, of course.
Yeah.
So he looks like that, that turtle that fell on its shell trying to get up. And we giggled and we laughed and we picked on him about that for a very, very long time. And that was one of the ones that stands out. Of course, we did all the silly things, putting saran wrap in between the toilet bowl and the, and the seat. That's always a fun one for the lady. Yeah, but I think doing things like that is part of the way we cope with some of the things that we do. We have fun at work. We try to, minimize these things. We kind of have this mentality, and we've had this mentality of suck it up. One of the favorite phrases that I used to say is suck it up, buttercup. That was what we were always told. So our profession has this deeply ingrained suck it up mentality. I've heard suck it up, buttercup. I've heard this is what you signed up for. Tell me a little bit about how that cultural norm has impacted mental health, maybe through your peers or maybe yourself throughout your career.
Yeah, like you touched on earlier, there's been a great shift, upwards in talks of this, but when I first started on my career department, it was almost 10 years ago. There was a whole different generation of firefighters that exactly like you talked about, suck it up, get over it, blah, 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 blah. And now I can say there's a lot more resources out there. Like my department, we have after runs, we all get together as a group, talk about them. The department chaplain will call you and talk to you, as needed. There's definitely a great shift going on, and hopefully it continues because, like I said, the change from those guys 10 years ago to now is huge. And hopefully, resources like my book and other people talking and podcasts and everything, like hopefully it all continues because it's all for the better.
Did you notice when you released your book and started to be more open about your own mental health struggles, that was more well received and you had a positive response and people started to approach you more and open up about their own lives?
Yeah. Like I said, I'll get messages all the time of people just, pouring out their heart and soul to me, and that's fine. I tell people all the time my inbox is open. I try to answer everybody that messages me because if I'm going to have this following of people, like I said, I need to use it for good and try to make the career better than I found it. So I urge people, if they need to talk to me, I will try to, talk to you as much as I can and offer advice and help. And I have people reach out all the time, and I try to give like a free PDF version of my book out to them, email them. Sometimes I'll send out physical copies because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to help people.
Does it get heavy for you? Because I'm sure you have people that tell you their problems. So does it get heavy for you to hear others' problems as well as dealing with your own stuff?
No, not really. I think I bragged about it in my book. I like to pride myself on I'm able to handle a lot of stuff, and it not get to me. But don't get me wrong. There's been points in my life where it's gotten to me. But here lately, I think I've found a great balance of everything. And like I said, I try to respond to all the messages I can. Now that I'm doing this content creation on the side, I find myself at home a lot more than at work. So that's great as well. I spend a lot more time with my family. So this thing truly is a blessing to me. So I'm trying to make it a blessing for everybody else as well.
Yeah, I love that. say you're going to speak to a room full of leaders, how do you tell them this is kind of the leadership style that people from our position, say you're talking to me, I'm a manager, we're a large pediatric transport team. How do I lead in a way that makes people comfortable, makes people feel like, you know, that guy's there for me in the sense of mental health?
They always tell you that, you know, your boss can't be your best friend, but there's somewhat of a truth to that. But I've had a lot of bosses that, you know, I'll experience something in life or, you know, something would be bothering me and they'll reach out to me, you know, they'll text or call me and say, hey, you know, what's going on? Do you need help? You know, be that shoulder for somebody. Even if you're the boss, if you see somebody going through something, you need to reach out to them and call them and talk to them, be that leader, because I've also had those bosses that could care less about anybody but themselves. You just have to be that type of person, in my opinion.
And I
I
think
have
that's,
noticed too, Kevin,
yeah, go
not to
ahead, Kim.
interrupt you. You know, me and you together have been through several management changes.
We
And I've
have.
noticed with our current, he's more willing and wanting to know you on a more personal level and humanizes you and understands like you're not just a number here. He treats
Absolutely.
you like a person with feelings, emotions, and a family too. And I know for myself, it makes me a lot more committed and dedicated to my job, knowing that my boss has that level of care and concern about me.
Absolutely.
I've asked numerous people like how do you, and I always like to say that I'm not a leader, I'm a student of leadership that's trying to lead. I don't think you ever stop learning. I don't think you ever stop developing. And one of the things I've asked numerous people is how do I emotionally and mentally be there for my team, even when things are not great on the professional front of what we have to do as leaders. So I appreciate y'all saying that. How has the salty persona of you, how has that shaped how you live your life moving forward, the content you make? Like, I'm sure it shifted some things. You talked about being at home more, but I'm sure it shifted a lot more than just that. And you're an author now. That's cool. You get to put author on your resume.
Yeah, man. My life has just completely changed from just making that. I started off on Instagram, just making a simple Instagram account, and the opportunities that I've been presented now, like I've been able to write a couple books. I just did my first stand-up comedy show a few months ago. Was given that opportunity. I've got a few presentations, like talks. I'm going around the country doing like EMS conferences, talking about the book. And, you know, 2 years ago, I never would have dreamed this stuff would have happened. So it's crazy the power of social media. Now, don't get me wrong, people can use it for bad things and it can truly be a bad thing. But I believe as long as I keep my head on straight and understand what I need to accomplish with this voice, hopefully things will keep, you know, turning out like they have been, because I love this. I love my job as a firefighter paramedic, and I love my side job as a content creator, because I'll be just chilling at the firehouse and a video will pop up in my head. I'll pull up my notes app, type it out, be like, I can't wait to go home and film that tomorrow, you know? And it's just, I love making people laugh, and hopefully it can continue.
Yeah, this podcast has gotten us into some content creation as well. So it's different. I'm still learning some stuff. I'm still, you know, the TikTok algorithm to me doesn't make any sense sometimes. I have, you know, and a lot of it, don't get me wrong, EMS Avenger is the reason why. It's not us. Jimmy did a episode with us and we released that video, and that thing's got 14,000 views now. You know, the videos of just me or Kim's got 900, and I'm like, something doesn't track. You know, we got all these followers from that video, and then something doesn't. Maybe it's just us. Are we that ugly?
He's a great guy, though. I mean, he makes
is,
very great videos, you know, knowledgeable, which are the complete opposite of the type of videos I make. You know, I just do like toilet humor. But he's actually going to be speaking at the Kentucky EMS conference, I believe,
Yeah, he told us that,
alongside
yeah.
me. So I can't wait to meet him as well.
We're actually going to be speaking at the Mississippi EMS conference.
Awesome.
And later on in October. So
Great.
It's my first big speaking engagement like that. I've spoken to smaller crowds, of course, but
Yeah.
never. I've spoken to our work auditorium, which is the only thing that I've ever spoken to, and that's about as far as it goes. So I think me and Kim, and if you go back and listen to the very first episode, me and Kim share some of our personal stories. Was there any couple calls that really stand out for you, couple runs that may stand out to you as those that really pushed you over the edge?
Yeah, The one in particular I talk about for anybody that hasn't read my book, I was, a couple years into the job. I was already an established paramedic. I was precepting another paramedic student at the time. I think it was like right after dinner, came out, infant not breathing, and your heart sinks. And up until that point, I had seen some messed up stuff. My very first call, I saw a dude that shot himself in the head, and I'm sitting there bagging this person, and it's like it wasn't real, but I went home and it seemed like it didn't bother me, which was kind of surprising. But, fast forward a couple years, I think I'm fine. I think, nothing's ever going to affect me because I've seen stuff like that. But anyway, we get there, baby's not breathing, no pulse. I do CPR, do all our other interventions on the way to the hospital. The hospital ride was just a few minutes, it felt like, because we were driving so fast. Get there, needless to say, baby doesn't make it. I felt kind of numb the rest of the shift. Luckily we didn't have very many runs after that. I went home the next day. I think I slept most of the day. I told my wife basically what had happened, but I didn't go into detail. And I said, hey, I just need a little bit. And then a couple weeks after that, I was still the same person. I just wasn't talking a lot to her. Wasn't wanting to interact with my family, my coworkers. And I think it was, a couple weeks afterwards, I realized what was going on. And I took a few shifts off, and I talk about in my book, I reset, and that didn't make me forget the call, but it made me, really think about what had happened, realize that no matter what I had done, it might always been the same outcome. I can't control every outcome, and those type of calls happen across the country to everybody. So I think that 1 week off work really helped me just be at home with my family, try to forget it. But that's the number one call that will always stick out to me.
So I've often wondered, and maybe you have an opinion on this. I feel like that there is a distinct difference in the mental health struggles that an EMT faces and a paramedic faces. I think that there is a heavier weight of responsibility on the paramedic. At least that's what I felt. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, no, don't get me wrong. EMTs, do a great job and everything.
They're awesome. Yeah, they save me all the time.
Yeah, they always
saved me for
when
years.
I forget my pen, they always hand me a pen, which happens all the time. But as paramedics, we're supposed to have a lot more knowledge. We're responsible for a lot more interventions. And when things go sideways and you felt like, all right, I didn't intubate them quick enough, or, that IO didn't flush, so I got to do another IO. And, you start to second guess everything you do. And that's just, I feel like a heavier burden, because ultimately that scene is your scene. You're under control for not only the, what the patient outcome, all the interventions you performed, and you're also in control of everybody else on the scenes. My EMT, any like firefighters, county firefighters that showed up. I talk about that baby call. One of the county firefighters on scene messaged me after the fact, said, hey, I just want to thank you for how calm, cool, and collected you were. It really kept me calm during that. And I did not think I was whatsoever, but I guess I was. And that's just one thing you have to constantly keep in the back of your head, like, hey, all these people are watching you because you're in charge. You're supposed to know the most. If they stay calm, it's all going to be better in the end. So
I love fire medics too. And since you're one of those, I'll ask you this. Do you think that so I'm sure you've worked shifts where you're on the engine or a firefighter versus a paramedic on the unit. Is there a difference between the triggers for PTSD between fire and EMS on those sides? Are there different things that are going to trigger those different people? Because what we've said in the past is mental health is not a one size fits all, thing. So, can you talk about some of those differences between the fire side and the EMS side, since you've got a taste of both, or since you've got experience in both?
Yeah. I mean, my department, we run fire and EMS, so we see, all the EMS calls as well. For those departments that are just fire, they're not going to see as many medical calls that will trigger that, I think. But on the opposite side of things, I've been to plenty of house fires where there's been, people that haven't made it out, burnt up bodies, and, that messes with you as well. And that's something the EMS side might not see as well, somebody that just unrecognizable inside the house that got burnt up. So not just EMS, firefighter. People ask me all the time, hey, I'm a dispatcher. Will your book benefit me?
Absolutely.
I can't imagine the type of phone calls they receive, and, people having the worst day of their life, and they're having to try to keep them calm, and it might be a little kid that their mom or dad's, overdosed in front of them. I can't imagine that. So no matter who you are in this profession, I think we all, will have those triggers and experiences that hopefully we can try to mitigate in the end.
Well, I've done both sides of it, and Kim knows this, and she can kind of speak to the change that she saw in me. Like the very last year that I was physically on the truck working as a paramedic, Kim, I was pretty burnt out and bad.
He completely changed like his whole demeanor. And
Yeah.
Kevin and I have known each other for over 10 years. And he's always came to work and he's been helpful and upbeat and wants to learn and wants to teach and always had been a really good like preceptor. And all of a sudden, when he would come in, he really wasn't engaging with anybody else. He was kind of withdrawn, shut down. Like we used to prank each other a lot and throughout our career, especially on night shift. Obviously, we were the children left with no supervision.
Yeah.
So
That's why I love
we
night
were,
shift so much.
me too. Probably why we're still here during our younger
Absolutely.
years, no supervision. And we would always mess around and joke around, and all of a sudden, like he was just pissed, like all the time. It didn't matter what day of the week it was, like flat face,
Yep.
fuck off,
Uh-huh.
appearance every time I came to the door, and it just wasn't like him. And you'd ask, but of course, at least in my personal experience, when my mental health has gotten to that point, there's a part of you that appreciates somebody asking and caring and being concerned. But then because mental health hasn't been so forward, you're like, shit, I'm not hiding this anymore. Now people at work are noticing, and it kind of makes you self-conscious, or at least it makes me self-conscious. I'm like, I need to get it together because I don't want people to continue to probe and ask me questions of what's wrong, especially out of fear and the stigma of having a mental health issue to start with. And and a lot of our positions, your position, we have that type A personality and people look up to us and aspire to like be us. We have younger people in our roles that look up to us as a role model, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm not a role model. I'm falling to shit right now. Like I can't even help myself, and it's a whole thing. But yeah,
and
for Kevin on.
when I started changing it had a few factors to it. My mother-in-law had died in a motorcycle accident. That was very traumatic. Unexpected loss always is. And then you couple that with all the things we were seeing at work. Like I said, we're a pediatric service. There was one particular patient that really made me question doing this. I had a patient that was an asthmatic that had been treated at a hospital and then sent home. They came back in cardiac arrest, and it was so bad that we were having to manually exhale for this patient. And if you never had to do that, you're literally sitting on their chest, making their lungs compress. And it was one of those things that was just like, it was a compilation of anger, regret for them not treating this patient, heartbreak for watching. I mean, because you've got the parents and the family around, and that's very traumatic anyway. We've talked numerous times about a mother scream when you hear, when they hear their baby has passed. That's a sound that doesn't ever leave your brain. And so I started changing, and so we have yearly evaluations, and the very last yearly evaluation that I had, my boss brings me to the office and he says, "Do you know how many times you said F off to me this year?" I said, "No, I hadn't kept a count." He said 37. He was a counter, apparently. He's like, "You need a change." He said, "I recognize you need a change. This is not you." So thankfully, I had a boss that was able to recognize that. And so I came into dispatch. And one of the hardest things I found in dispatch is there is a feeling of helplessness. Like, I know what to do. I know what these patients need. And yeah, dispatch are the unsung heroes sometimes of what we do. They are the first responder, is what you hear lots of people say. And I think that's true. I think that their mental health would be greatly benefited through this book. And like I said, I keep holding it up because I love it so much. But yeah, if you're a dispatcher, veterinarian, apparently, a bunch of other first response folks, this is the book for you. I'm going to give this to Kim when I leave so she can look at it, because I ordered it probably 2 weeks ago. And like I said, it's quick, easy read. So I had it knocked out in a day and a half, just reading it, passing time. And I love that. I love that it's a quick read. I'm not typically a book reader. I'm a book listener.
Mm-hmm.
So I listen to a lot of books, and this is one that I sat down and held on to and held. And I use the note sections, but I use it on my phone instead of doing that, so I could pass the book off to somebody else.
Yeah.
So great job, dude. I really love the book. I really love what you're doing. I love your content. So when you really discuss PTSD in the form that it is in first response, we kind of have this, we've kind of talked about the stigma. We've kind of talked about that we keep it hidden. Do you think that you see a lot of your colleagues or a lot of people that you interact with hiding those PTSD symptoms. And I'm getting to something here with Kim, that we talk about almost every episode, but I use her as a great example of this. So do you see that in our field a lot, that we're really hiding the symptoms or masking something or calling it something that it's not?
Yeah. I mean, I'll see coworkers like you talked about earlier that will just seem to change overnight. They go from someone that seems like very proactive and loving the job to just being sour at every run. And obviously something's bothering them that they're not addressing. And at the end of the day, you have to truly question if this is what you want to do or not, because when you get to be that type of person, you're just, you're being that bad attitude and bad personality. Everybody around you is going to just seem to, mimic that, because I can take a station of, somebody, a leader, a captain or something that is just not proactive, just lazy, and the station will seem to mimic that, And then you can take another station. The captain's a real go-getter, very driven, and then the station, they'll want to do that as well. So I think it's mostly to the leadership as well, but it's just something you have to address.
The reason that I use Kim as an example is because she had, and we've talked about it, so I'm not going to spend much time on it, but she had this particular incident that she was having real problems with, and she reached out to me. And Kim, I'll let you take it and tell them about what you said, because one of the lines in our very first episode that she said that I thought was so good, she said, I kept scoring severe on the depression sheet, the little tests they give out. I kept scoring severe, and she's like, I don't get it. I'm pretty happy. But all of her symptoms were PTSD related. So Kim, I'll let you kind of elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, that's one thing that Kevin and I had talked about. I don't think I've realized I had PTSD from our job for a long time. I thought, and a lot of that relayed back to I have a family history of clinical depression.
Mhm.
And so I would constantly chalk this up to like, maybe that's me. And I was like, well, that really doesn't make sense. Like, I love what I do. I come to this job. I love my patients. I love to learn. I love to precept. I'm usually happy and bubbly. But when I get screened for depression, I'm scoring like, call 911.
Yeah.
Call 911. I'm like, and there goes the dark humor, because I was like, well, shit, maybe I need to clock out and go home, because I haven't done it one day on the clock.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm a threat to myself. And it was stupid to me,
It was
because I'm
more
like,
of a threat to others that we were concerned about.
right. And I finally recognized it. And I've been doing this for 14 years. After a really bad call, and I text Kevin and I said, I don't feel like myself for 3 days now. I normally shake off calls well. And, once I go to the gym and spend some time with my family, I feel a lot better, but that's not what's happening. And I keep having anxiety, and I can't shake it. And he said, Kim, this is PTSD. And I was like, oh, it's like a light bulb popped on for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, maybe this is what's been going on all along. And I just never really realized it.
Mhm.
So I always like to get people's coping mechanisms for the hard runs that we face, because they're going to keep coming. We can sit here and talk about mental health all day, but the reality of it is we're going to have future bad calls. They're just going to come. That's the nature of the business. That's what we got into it. We got into it to not necessarily see somebody's worst day, but to be there when they have that worst day.
Mhm.
I always said that I hated when somebody, had that event, but I always wanted to be there for it, because I felt like I could provide that care that was so important for them. So what are some of your coping mechanisms? What are, other than dark humor, which we kind of talked about, what are some things that you do on a day-to-day basis that make you feel like it's still worth it?
Yeah, so the main one would be in just spend time with family. My wife and my kids are everything to me. So anything that I'm able to come home and do with them and keep my mind off of it, that's just paramount to me. Being able, my dad, who was, in this field as well, those bad runs, I seem to talk about the bad runs to him more than anybody, because he's been through it and he can relate and try to offer some guidance. But other than that, I mean, my channel, making funny videos about stuff I've experienced, just that humor, like even if it's dark humor, it truly helps me more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, if you hadn't picked up this book, go get it. And you can show the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. That's an order
I'm
place.
excited for that.
Yeah. Don't
So-
lose ourselves.
Yeah, the new one, audiobook should be out.
So as a final message, tell everybody where they can find you. Tell everybody where they can get your books, and give us a little word of encouragement to close it out.
All right, y'all can find me I'm very active on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Just search the Salty Paramedic. I'll pop up. Both my books are available on Amazon. And then if you want signed copies, you can go to my website, www.thesaltyparamedic.com. And the TikTok shop have signed copies as well. Okay. The word of encouragement is don't lose yourself.
That's pretty good. That's great. I love it. All right. So, Cody, thank you for being with us. You are the Salty Paramedic, and we appreciate you accepting our invitation to come on the show. You have been fantastic. We hope that we can get together again with you and your wife and talk about Don't Lose Ourselves once I get through that one. I'm excited to go buy it. I'm going to be purchasing that this afternoon. But I looked for it a few weeks ago, and it had not released yet. I saw a video you had done saying that it was going to release, and of course, I didn't make it through the whole video because my ADHD kicked in, and I don't have the attention span.
I get that.
So I go looking for Don't Lose Ourselves, and there's nothing there. I'm like, God bless. So now I'm excited that it's out. I'm excited that I can get it. So I'll be purchasing that very, very soon. I'm going to give this book to Kim and let her read it because I think it's an excellent read and one that she'll enjoy. But like I told everybody at the start of the show, you can find us A Silent War Within. You can search it on Facebook. You can search it on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. You'll find us there. Instagram is actually A Silent War Within 901, which we're in Memphis, so that's our area code. And you'll see possibly hats and shirts and all that kind of thing. And we've got a lot of great ideas that are coming down the line. We've got a lot of great guests that are coming down the line. So we hope that you'll be on this mental health journey with us. This is therapy for Kim and I, just as much as it is you guys. We talk about that often, that this has become like our little happy place. We enjoy getting to hear the viewpoints of others and what you guys have struggled with. And it's wild that it's so similar, but we're so many miles apart. You know, we've interviewed people that are sitting on the California coast and they struggle with some of the same things that we do. So it is across the board, first responders, healthcare. We're really excited about the upcoming guests and upcoming episodes. We hope you guys will come with us. And Kim, it's your time.
As always, be safe, take care of your mind, and we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.
You've been listening to A Silent War Within. If this episode resonated, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you're not alone and your well-being matters. It's time to end this silent war.